Hello and welcome to my Harley Quinn makeup tutorial. This makeup is based on the Suicide Squad look with the red dress. So with any makeup, the first thing I do is I ask myself, do I need contacts and do I need to cover my eyebrows? I do actually sometimes wear blue contacts for Harley Quinn. I do have some but they've expired, so always put your health first. If your contacts are not suitable, then do not wear them. Since this is a makeup tutorial, I think we're fine with that. I actually have green eyes, which is they're not too dark or anything like that, so I'll probably just get away with it. Keep in mind as well that contacts are optional. This is your cosplay and you have to be comfortable in what you're doing. So if you do not want to wear contacts, then do not wear contacts if you do not feel comfortable. I always feel like cosplay is like buying a car and customizing it. So you could choose like this, this and this, but you don't want this, this and this. And then it makes it your own and you're doing it your own way. I've got contacts, but they are just normal contacts because the other ones have expired. So I want to be able to see what I'm doing. If you want to wear contacts and you're not used to it, really you should go to an optician who will teach you how to do it. That's what I did. I'm not going to teach you how to put them in because a professional should really do that. Okay, so I've decided on the contacts and the next thing I want to do is choose whether I need to cover my eyebrows or not. So by that I mean, like, if you say somebody like Jessica Jones has very straight eyebrows. So you can see that if I wanted to be Jessica Jones, they're quite low and they go straight. So there's no way that my eyebrows lie on that line where her eyebrow lies. So I would need to cover my eyebrows in that sense. It's really dependent on everyone's faces. Everyone looks different and there's going to be scenarios where you'll get away with not covering your eyebrows or you will need to cover your eyebrows. So luckily for me, Margot Robbie's, her eyebrows start roughly where mine start. They're maybe a bit lower actually, so they start about here. My eyebrows are more rounded, so they kind of go round like that and down. Her eyebrows kind of do like they kind of curve in the way. So they do the opposite, so they kind of go like that. Luckily her eyebrows are quite thick, so I actually just get away with it because my own eyebrows will sit underneath where hers should be. So I just get away with not covering my eyebrows, which is great because if you have to cover your eyebrows, it can add on quite a lot of time to your makeup. If you need to cover your eyebrows, I am going to do a tutorial on how I do it. I've been trying to improve over time, so I wanted to get to a more confident stage that I can teach other people how I do it. And I've been getting them really smooth lately. I've been quite pleased with how I've been doing it. So I'm going to film an extra tutorial showing you how I do that. It's basically what drag queens do when they use like a glue stick and it kind of flattens them down and then you can cover them with makeup, etc. So the first thing I do before I put on makeup is I prep my skin. I usually use The Ordinary products. This is like the moisturiser. This will really hydrate the skin and just make sure it's nice and soft. If you are covering your eyebrows, you don't want to do anything to your skin until those are covered. To prep the skin for foundation, I often use a primer. That's completely up to you. It just creates a more smooth surface. And so I've got the Urban Decay one that I bought ages ago. I've still got it, so I'm just using that. So I just put that onto my fingers and kind of spread it around my face and pat it in and make sure it goes into all the little crevices. Because it basically is like a filler if you want to think like that. Another thing with primers is that some don't work with some foundations. Something to do with them being water-based or silicone. So if you find that your makeup is not looking right, I'd maybe look into changing your primer or your foundation because sometimes they're not compatible. And so I'll leave that up to you to kind of research. But I think the water-based ones are meant to work well together and then the silicone-based ones are meant to work together. But you can have a look at that. Having primed my skin, I also want to prime my eyes. And the reason I prime my eyes is because when you put eyeshadow onto it, it sticks better and the colour will show up a lot better. Most of the time, I get like a flat brush and I use it's P. Louise base like that. The P. Louise one's very good. I don't know, I've never tried any other brands before. But I remember when this product started, it was like all the rage kind of thing. So I just kind of spread that on my eye. You don't actually need a lot, just a little dab. Spread it about the eye. Sometimes it gets a little streaky, so I've got these tiny little beauty blenders which are excellent at just kind of getting in little small areas of your face, and then I just kind of pat it in. Just be careful because it's your eye, so don't put too much pressure on it there. So I've primed my eyes and I've primed my skin, but I'm going to also prime my lips. Mine's get a bit dry sometimes, so I use this kind of lip scrub thing. It's from Barry M. It's a bit like sugar, like you could literally just rub sugar or something on your lips to exfoliate them. It's not hard, as long as it kind of gets rid of the dead skin on top of your lip, it's fine. Then I use a little lip balm. I got this one for Christmas, it's number 7. Perfect and, oh, protect and perfect. Just to hydrate them again. So after about a minute or so, I use this lip primer, it's from NYX, and I just go over the whole of my lips. You're basically preparing your face for makeup. Everything's going to look better and sit better. The colour is going to be better, and especially for the skin primer, like your skin might feel a lot smoother or look a lot smoother. So it's time to start with the makeup. The first thing I'm going to do are the eyebrows, and what I'm using is it's MUA Brow Define. I use it for a lot of my eyebrows. The reason I use it is because it's so fine at the end, and it means that you can actually almost emulate real hairs on your eyebrows because it is like a thin end to it. There are lots of other things you could do with eyebrows, but I like to use this, especially when I do my own eyebrows when I go out or anything like that. Normally I would use this. So I'm going to start roughly here underneath. Hers are quite arched, her eyebrows, but they're not much higher than mine, or they're not much lower than mine. So I'm just going to start filling it in, and keeping in mind I want to create this kind of curved shape round, and not this way. It's got to be under and round. I'm just going to fill that out there, copy the shape, okay, and then you can line the top and bottom if you want to get the lines. Sometimes I like to leave it raw, it just looks a bit more natural. So I try not to do like a line like this, I'll just kind of fill them in like so. But at the bottom I usually would line straight at one point just to get the right shape. So what her eyebrows do about here, if you see mine's come down here, hers actually go higher and then kind of come down. So I need to fill out this bit here and make sure that there's a shape like that. And also it kind of comes round, so it's not so arched like that, it's more just kind of like curved round. Okay. Don't want to put much eyeshadow, don't want to put much makeup here because we're trying to not curve it round, we're trying to curve it under. Sometimes you might make a little mistake, but if you make a mistake, just get a little, you can either just use your finger or get like a little cotton bud or something just to get rid of it. Okay. Also pay attention to where the eyebrows stop. So like if you're doing a lot of like 90s or 80s makeup, sometimes their eyebrows stay away out here because that's quite like a lot in people's natural eyebrows to start there. It seems to be more a thing these days that this kind of come in closer. It seems to be the thing. So, and I think I've just made that a bit too pointy there, so that should be like a bit flatter. Just keep filling bits down if it doesn't look right. I'm just going to fill in this bit. If you just raise that bit there, it can almost kind of enhance that look that it's kind of doing this. Like. So you see what I've done there? It kind of looks like it's sweeping more round like that. It's maybe not the neatest I've done it, but you can always tidy it up. So what you do is, if you just get a bit of micellar cleaning water or something like that, and just get a little Q-tip and then just get rid of anything that shouldn't be there. Easy peasy. Right. Sometimes I even like try and do the same expressions as her in other photos, and then you can see if it's kind of sitting the same way, and I think that this bit here should be kind of sweeping down a bit more. Obviously her muscles and her face might be different from mine, but you get the point. So what I want to do is do the next eyebrow to kind of match this one. So at this point I usually stop looking at the photo and just match it on my face. So you want to just kind of use that as your reference now, so that they're the same. This bit should be up and round and much more hairs up here, creating that kind of arch. If you're covering your eyebrows, there's different products you can use. This might work quite well, but sometimes it can be hard using pencils on top of like glue. I sometimes use like a brow pomade, or actually eyeshadow is very good like for the base to like build the colour, and then you could use something like a pencil or a pen to build out the detail. So like if I ever cover my eyebrows, I would probably use a few different products to try and get that natural look. It's quite difficult when you don't have any hairs there and you're trying to make it look like hairs. So yeah, there's different techniques. So in other tutorials you'll see what I do. I will cover my eyebrows for most of my I will cover my eyebrows for most of my tutorials, and you can see what I do in those situations. The colour of this pencil is dark brown. Her eyebrows are obviously quite dark, so I think that sometimes this is a bit light, and what I do is I go in with a black and just put some black hairs in there as well. It kind of darkens it slightly. So what do I think about this? It's looking a bit Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's eyes that kind of have this thicker bit here. Don't really want that. It might not be exact, but do you see how it's curving round more than my eyebrows? Like that's really what you want to achieve. If your eyebrows already do this, like just go over your own eyebrows, are sorted. You don't need to like change anything. If you've got exact eyebrows to her eyebrows, like you would just be kind of making them look good. You don't have to change anything. So at this point I just kind of like tidy up what I've got and make sure the shape's right, because it's really difficult to get the right shape right away. So before I move on to doing my eyes, I'm just going to go in there with, this is a black and the same kind of pencil that you get from MUA. The Brow Define, it's a black colour, and because her eyebrows are just that bit darker than this, I just go through it a bit with the black. And it just adds a few more tones in there just to darken it slightly. It's kind of there. Yeah, I'll look at it with the eye makeup and see what I think. And then I can go back and edit. Edit's really important when you're trying to shapeshift because it's really hard to get it exact sometimes. So when I'm adding the colour for the makeup, what I actually do is look at the eye first and look at the eyelids, because I might not do it exactly the way that they do in the film if I want to look more like the person. There's little tricks and things like that. So Margot Robbie's eye is actually more hooded than mine, meaning that this lid comes down a bit more over the eyelid. My eyelids are a bit bigger. So to counteract that, I want to kind of create a contrast so that this bit's quite light, so it looks like it's more kind of sticking out, and that this bit's a bit darker here. So I'm just going to go in with some eyeshadow. It's just like a dark brown that I've got, and I'm just going to go, I'm not even going far up, I'm just going right at the bottom of the eyelid and just putting this colour on. I don't want to go too far up because I don't want to, like, I don't want to enhance my own eyelids. You want to make it look like your eyelids lower down if you've got ones like mine. This is the palette I'm using. It's just the NYX one. It's like browns, and there's a very light colour in there. What I'm going to do with the light colour is I'd normally put it here, but if I put it here, it's going to look like this is sticking out more and this is more further in because you're highlighting this and you're pushing it forward. What I'm actually going to do with it is I'm just going to put it into this socket here, because what I want to do with that line here is bring it out so it's not so deep, and then that way it looks a bit more like hers and how hers goes. Like, you do not want to highlight the top if your eyes do that. If you've got hooded eyes already, you're onto a win because that's what her eyes are like, depending on the amount. So I've done that. I just go up slightly just to kind of blend it out, but I'm not going all the way to the top here because that doesn't need to stick out anymore because mine's already sticks out. See what I'm saying? The rule with like highlighting and contrasting anything is if you want something to be brought out towards, say like towards the camera, you would highlight the part you want to be closer to the camera, and then you would shadow the bits you want to be pulled further in so it looks flatter. You can add lots of dimension using makeup like that way. It's the very basics of what I do and what you do. I always go for placement over colour, so if the colour's not slightly If the colour doesn't match the film exactly, like that doesn't bother me. I'm more bothered about looking like the person. And all that kind of stuff comes later. So if you're just kind of getting used to it, I'd say definitely try and get the shapes right and the placement right, and the colours can come later. I'm just going to go in with a little tiny thin brush and just go a bit darker. I really want to enhance the fact that her lid is not that big. Not as big as mine. I'm just going to go in with a little tiny thin brush and just go a bit darker. I really want to enhance the fact that her lid is not that big. Not as big as mine. If you want to change the shape of your eyes to somebody else, lining is the way to do it. I'd say it's the most important part of the eye makeup because you're giving an impression that your eye is a completely different shape by lining it and cheating around your own eye. I prefer to use a liquid liner for the top of my eye because it's you can just get a bit more detailed with it, but you do need to try, if you're not used to it, you really need to try and get used to it. This one's Glam Eyes by Rimmel. I use this all the time. So Margot Robbie's eye. Mine starts kind of in like an average place and kind of comes up. Mine's are quite curved at the top. A lot of people don't have eyes as curved as this. A lot of people have it a bit straighter. So majority of makeups I actually do a trick here and I'm going to show you. So because her eye is straighter, it's almost like, do you know when you get a sleepy eye and you kind of look like you're tired, and it's straighter looking because it's your eye's going like this. A lot of people have that naturally. So what I do is I actually cheat the eyeliner higher and I start it just above my own natural one and I go straight towards the curve and I stop there. I could put it around the curve at the top, but I do not want to accentuate the curve. If I accentuate the curve, I'm going to make her eyes look like more round, and I don't want it. I want it to do the opposite of what my eyes do, and I want it to be straighter. So I actually don't put any eyeliner in the middle at the top here. I just leave it blank. And then I continue on at the side. I'll continue on from about here. And I just bring it out a bit. Into like a wing almost. Just a really small wing because she doesn't have anything. If you do too much of a wing, it looks like an actual makeup look, and we just want it to look like her eyes kind of coming out. So at the top, I would say that's a bit more like it. If you see that along with my own eye, you can see that there's a difference. And this looks straighter and this looks rounder, okay? So to do that, you just miss out the middle bit here. And that's it. You might even need to make yours look rounded. Maybe yours eye's very straight at the top and you just need to add in a little bit of roundness. But basically put the eyeliner in the places that you need to change the shape. And that's it. Just miss out the bits that you do not need to change the shape. So her eyes actually are at an angle. They're very high here and it's lower here. So what her eyes do is because they go up here, you don't want to put too much makeup here because it's going to bring them down and make that bit heavier. I try to kind of bring it close to my eye so that it's kind of accentuates that kind of accentuates it kind of going up if you want. But what I need to do is this part's quite low on her eye, so I need to kind of line it in a way that doesn't look odd, but it kind of still looks like her eye. So I want it to come quite far down here and then gradually kind of sweep up. So I always end up tweaking it at the end anyway, so sometimes at this point I just kind of go with what I've got and then I can change it later. I'm just going to refine the shape as much as I can. It should be coming round, and does that look round to me? It doesn't really. So I'm just going to bring it down in the middle here. Put more weight on it. The more weight that you put on your makeup on the bottom of your eye, the more kind of like heavier it'll look and it'll just pull everything right down, which helps sometimes. But sometimes you don't want it to look crazy. Sometimes at this point I just get a little brush and kind of blend it out. I like that, but what I would say is if you put too much weight on the under the eye here, I just think it looks a bit too fake because that's like a delicate part of your eye. So usually that part, I would make sure that that's a lot thinner. So I get my Q-tip here and my micellar water, and I'm just gonna take some of this away just here. And that looks a bit less fake now. So I'm gonna match this eye, cheat it slightly up, straight to the curve, stop. Just a tiny little wing, just to kind of give it that extra bit of height. And again with the bottom, always make sure that your pencil is sharp. This is really important. The biggest lesson I've found doing this is just keep that sharp and it'll look a lot better. Sometimes the actual pencil as well, like sometimes the quality really matters on these pencils because it's black can sometimes come out looking grey in some of the pencils, I think. And I've had problems with my makeup before in that sense, so. So again, one of the problems you're going to find is just matching the eye on the other side and making sure they look the same. So just pay attention to what you've done on the other side and you want to match it. So we're just blending it out there, the eye with the top. I just added a tiny little line in just to kind of make sure that they're lined up. And that looks a bit crazy, so I'm going to fix that. It doesn't look round like that. But as I say, I always go back and fix things at the end. There's always something, you go to film and then you go, no, something's wrong. And then you fix it and it all seems to fall into place. There's been so many times I felt like giving up on a makeup, and really you just have to change one thing and that's it. So never give up, just keep going. You will get there in the end, or you'll get close to what you're trying to get. It's not easy, this. Working out the shapes and everything takes a lot of kind of studying and a lot of work just to really realise what you need to be doing. I actually more prefer this eye, I don't know why. I'm looking at the shape. It seems to be a bit lower in the middle, so I'm just going to take my Q-tip again and just fix that right now because I like the look of this one. See, there's like a slight difference. Oh, my hands are covered in makeup, but anyway. What you can also do, so if you've got maybe like your skin's slightly darker or anything like that, my eyes are quite pale and my skin's quite pale, so sometimes I just get away with not using anything. But if you need to, you can obviously buy some sort of like eye colour makeup to sit along your eye line and make it look like that's part of your eye. It's like a trick. So yeah, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to use this. It's like a milk colour jumbo pencil from NYX, and it just shows you like you can, if your eye colour is a lot more different than your skin, you can just obviously add like a bit of white along the eye. I try not to put it too far out because once it hits your eyelashes it's a bit more obvious because it sits on your eyelashes. It's quite annoying. But and then I kinda, I'll just get something to blend it so it's not so like, hey look, I'm an eyeliner. For the eyes, obviously, another thing is, do you wear fake eyelashes or do you not wear fake eyelashes? I'd say that Harley Quinn's eyes, they don't look too extravagant. They look quite natural to me. Like, she's got really nice eyelashes, but I wouldn't say they look like so dramatic. So I usually just use my own. If I didn't do that, I would just use something probably more natural looking. But obviously this is your makeup. If you want to go all out, then you go all out. So instead of using fake eyelashes, I'm going to use eyelash curlers, and this is going to really open my eye. So I make sure that my eyeliner and my eyeshadow has actually dried. So most people, when they use an eyelash curler, is they do this. However, as I have gone on learning makeup, I have learned to do this and hold it for about 12-15 seconds. It just seems to curl a little better. But just watch, because obviously when you're putting more pressure on your eye when you're turning it up, so you don't want to like have it too far in and then it'll be painful on your eye. And you can see that that's quite like a lot better, like the curl on it's a lot better. And then I'll just go in with a mascara. This was like a sample one from Chanel. So we're just going to be a bit fancy today and use our Chanel mascara. Normally I would just use like any sort of high street mascara. So two things it does, it curls the eyelashes and make them look longer, and it brings the eyelashes out of your eye to make your whole eye shape look a bit bigger, because her eyes are quite big. If you want as well, I'd maybe do this beforehand, before you do all the eyeliner, but you could actually go in with the white underneath and just, like, she's got a bit more white just here. Like if I add that in, should probably add this in at the start, but anyway, you can just always do that. And you can also add liner under your eyelash. So if I wanted to, I could have actually just put some eyeliner just here, and then that would bring the line down again. But to be honest, I can't see an issue with what I've got here. If you find that your eyeshadow tends to fall on your face quite a bit before you do your foundation, you can put some loose powder on your face, and it means you can just like, after you're finished, you can just like sweep it away. I didn't do that this time, but you can do that. So you can put loose powder there, do your eye makeup, brush anything excess away, and then move on with what you're doing. What I'm going to do next is my foundation. To do that, I'm using a beauty blender. What to do with your beauty blender is make sure it's wet first and then just squeeze out any excess. And what that does is it means that when it soaks up product, it doesn't soak up too much so that there's like lots of waste. The water kind of takes up most of the beauty blender, and the foundation should sit like on the top instead of soaking right in there. It saves you product. Okay, so I've dampened my beauty blender and I'm going to go in with my foundation. I use this one from NARS and it's brilliant. I don't use any other foundation apart from Bare Minerals for like everyday wear. I absolutely love this foundation and I always use it when I do makeups. I love it, the colour. I managed to find a colour that's really close to my own skin tone and it's just perfect. If you're going to spend money on anything to do with makeup, I would get a really good foundation because I think it just makes all the difference. However, you never know. So I'm just basically going to pat this foundation all over my face. I had a bit of redness to my face, I don't know why, sometimes it does that. I need to hide all that redness. This foundation is the Natural Radiant Longwear foundation from NARS. This colour is Mont Blanc. There was one lighter, but it's got a really pinky base to it and I just felt like it would be too pink for me. But yeah, use the foundation of your choice here. The main thing's about the shapes and about the contour really. So now that the foundation is done, we want to contour the face. And when I say that, I mean like cheating your face to look like the shapes are different in your face. I always have the same obstacle when I do makeup, and it's because I've got these big cheekbones. So if I smile from the side, you can see that they're like massive. Anyway, so a lot of the time what I need to do is go in first with my contour and hide a lot of my cheekbone. The product I use to do that is Sweet Cheeks by NYX in the colour Taupe. Taupe is like a really good colour for how pale I am and for the pigment in my skin. If you've got warmer skin, you'll probably find that this colour is not very suitable. You probably need to get like a warmer tone. I find it's actually easier to find the warmer tones for contouring than it is the cooler colours. A lot of the sets that I've had before, they've always been too warm for my skin. But I might be wrong, I might be totally wrong there, but yeah. So judging on the colour of your skin and the warmth of your skin, I would use that as a basis for choosing your contour colour. It always needs to be darker than your own skin tone. It also needs to be the right kind of warmth. So just keep that in mind. Everyone's skin is completely different. So what I do is I take this little brush, it's actually broken, but it's the best brush I've got to do this. I take the NYX blusher and I just sort of pat it on the very edges of the cheekbone. I want to kind of push it in, and to do that you need to use the shadow. Shadow will push things and highlight will bring them out. So we want to kind of bring it down and make this cheekbone look less obvious from the front. From the side it's hard to do because obviously you can see your side profile is always going to remain similar. But from the front I can disguise it quite a bit. I also want to say, like, don't get down if you don't look like somebody. Like, you're you, and like you're great as yourself. You don't need to look like somebody else. This is just fun. Like, I find it fun to be a different character for the day, and then I'm really happy to just take it all off at the end of the day and be myself. Like, I'm really confident in who I am. I like the way I look. I would never change the way I look. I just find this fun and I like working it all out. So there we go. I'd say that's pushed in quite a bit now. I'd say the forehead's similar to mine, so there's nothing I would really do with that. It's maybe a tiny bit higher, so I could always highlight along here, and it means it would maybe make it look like there's more forehead there. But it's not like, I don't have to do it, I don't think. What's important for me is, obviously you can see kind of where my cheekbones stop. Hers are actually higher and they stop like up here somewhere, so I want to cheat that as well. So I really want to get the control here when I do this, so I'm going to use a smaller brush. I'd say they come down to about here and then kind of come round. So I'm just going to put a slight shadow just here, and it makes it look like my cheeks kind of start. I'm just going to blend it out. I really like things that are subtle when I do makeups. I don't like when it's like really heavy. I really like using powders. I find that they're much more subtle and you get that much more subtle makeup. Okay, you can see the difference. You can see that's more prominent. We don't want to make it look too much, so we kind of want to blend out as much as we can. Don't want it to look too dramatic. And I do the same on the other side. My cheekbones take up like this much of my face, so we just have to make sure that we're kind of disguising the very bottom of it. Pushing that back. And just blending it out. Blend, blend, blend. Blending is key here. I don't know if I'm happy with where that stops, you know. Gonna take a bit away from the bottom. When I do Harley Quinn, I try and avoid doing this because it's so obviously big cheekbones. So just keep working the contour until you kind of get the right shape. So you might even need to fake cheekbones onto your face. Maybe you don't have any at all. She's got a small amount of cheekbones. So what you would do in that case, if you don't have any cheekbone, is you want to highlight where her cheekbones should be, and then just add a light shadow underneath. And what that does is it gives dimension and it makes it look like it's coming out and then coming back in. But if you're like me, you're obviously trying to hide your big cheekbones. So to contour along the nose, I'm going to use like a rigid flat brush, just like a small one. I started filming this actually and my camera cut out, so I'm just going to show you again. So her nose is quite straight, and mine's is quite similar actually. So what I do is I just kind of go along and create like a straight line at the side with the contour. I'm still using the NYX taupe blush when I do this. I use the same contour for my whole face. I don't use anything else. And I'm just creating like a straight line. That's all I do. I don't add a lot of shape because mine is similar already. The width's quite similar. I'd say the main differences is that it's slightly more rounded here, so I just slightly put a little shadow there. And the nostrils her nostrils are a bit smaller than mine, so I just shadow the very edge of my nostrils and just there. If your nose is wider, then you can bring the shadow in a bit, so you can make it look smaller by just adding your contour shadow just in a bit. If your nose is thinner, then you want to kind of highlight the ridges here and then add sort of a shadow lower down. I do not add a lot of shadow around the sides, and the reason that I do that is because when you add a lot of shadow here, it makes your nose look flatter at the sides almost, so it looks like it's kind of like really thin there and then kind of flat here. But she doesn't really have that, so I don't put a lot there. I could also add highlight here, which would bring it forward, which would make it even look less flat at the sides and more kind of like nice and soft and kind of coming out like that. But I'd say that our noses are quite similar. So I've even got a bump in the middle of my nose, and she's got a bump as well, so it's quite ideal because a lot of the time I have to disguise that. I put the tiniest little shadow over like a ridge here because she has a little roundness to her nose at the end. Another thing is her chin at the bottom. I'd say my chin's slightly bigger and mine's is rounder. Hers is straighter and just a bit shorter. So what I want to do is I want to cut mine's a little bit off the bottom. And I'm just going straight over with the brush, side to side. Just get rid of that line. What you can actually do is, to make it look straight, you could do the shadow like round like that. And that gives the impression that it's straight, if that makes sense, because your chin's going round. So I sometimes do that and just kind of draw it like more of a round shadow to make it look straight. Looks a bit better. I usually always shadow under here as well. Like I think I've got like an extra muscle there. I always kind of get, it's not like a double chin, but it's just a bit bigger there. So I usually shadow that out. I just add shadow all under there and just blend it down. I think I'm actually at the point now where I'll add some highlight. I'm not going to add too much to her because most of the face I'm actually trying to push it in to not pull it out. But I will do it to the sort of chin. What I actually do when I highlight is I use this. It's a mixer thing that I found one time. It's Obsession Makeup London Mixer Whitening. And I actually mix this whitener in with my foundation, and it means that the highlight's actually similar colour to your foundation, but it's a bit lighter. And I feel like it gives this really natural look. So what I do is actually mix them both in my hand, like so. And I just kind of get my beauty blender, one of them. I'll get the small one actually. And I just kind of dot them and blend them together. I'm going to highlight the chin, and the reason I'm doing that is her chin's quite prominent, and I want to really create a contrast between that and the shadow underneath to like try and sell the fact that my chin's totally different shape. I could add a bit on my cheekbones. The only problem is it's going to make them stick out a bit more. Let's just try it and see what it looks like. I would just, sometimes it can help sell the fact that it's a different shape. You just highlight just a bit. I'm just going to do a little bit and see what it looks like. So the main bit I want to add a highlight to is above my brows because they are quite prominent. She's got quite a shadow, they're quite highlighted above her brow. You might be wondering what brushes I'm using. There's sometimes no rhyme or reason. Like, you kind of get used to what brushes work for what reasons. For something like this, I like them to be a bit more rigid and a bit more like a smaller brush. If they're too big, it's going to like make more of a mess and not go directly where you're wanting to put it. Just make sure it's always blended out. You can always go in with your beauty blender as well and just kind of get those edges, push them down. There's no way this makeup's going to look like her without me doing my lips. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to use a NYX lip pencil for lining, and it's called Alabama. As always, make sure it's sharp. If it's not sharp, it's not going to look very good, but you can always clean it up later with concealer. Her top lip's not that much bigger than mine. The Cupid bow's less extravagant as mine, so it kind of is a lot flatter there. So I'll do that first. Then what I do is I look at it from the side. You can see that my lips kind of curve slightly like that. Hers kind of come more out the way. So I want to make sure that it looks like it from the side. I find it sometimes helpful to draw it while looking at the side rather than looking at the front, if that makes sense. Because mine's kind of just, my skin just kind of comes in here and it just, I need to make sure it has the right look. Okay, and I draw that right to the corner of my lip because hers are like a little bit wider than mine, and I like to draw them as wide as I can get them. The bottom lip, it comes in a nice curve, her lip. It's a lot bigger than mine, and it's a lot bigger than the top lip. So you kind of want to know where you're going to draw it to first. There's a crease there, and hers kind of comes to just above the crease, like just about here. So I'll put a little mark as a guide, and then I'm just going to draw it down. The amount of times I've done this makeup and I've had to redo the lips is ridiculous, so don't worry if you don't get it like spot on, it is quite difficult. So with the liner, I always line over anything that's not my lips, so like my skin, like here. I'm going to make sure that I'm putting the liner right over that. So I have this red lip stain from Lime Crime. It gives like a matte finish. I wouldn't ever use gloss if you're overlining your lips because the gloss will hit the light, and obviously I've got little ridges where my own lips stop and I really don't want to like make them more obvious. So like a matte lip stain is perfect for this. You don't want to put too much on either because it ends up going a bit crusty if you put too much on. You just want to put on just enough to get the colour. It's at this point you can see if you feel like you've got the right shape or not. And I've always got something to fix, so let's have a look. I think I've made the sides too steep. So I'm just using the Q-tip trick again with the micellar water. This means you can tidy up the edges and have a look at what they look like. I'm taking a bit away. I feel like it might be a balance between the two. So we'll keep going with what we've got here, and then I'm going to add a bit more liner, but I'm just going to like overdraw the top just slightly and out, because a lot of the time when you look at hers, our top lip looks like it's wider than the bottom lip, if that makes sense. So I'm almost like winging the top one out. I think that that's the right technique to do for this. Definitely works. So if you've got lips like mine, or like they're the same width at the top and bottom, I would definitely maybe try this and make the top slightly wider. It definitely kind of gives that look that I was looking for. And it doesn't look as fake because the bottom one's not overdrawn, so it kind of works. If you overdraw the top and the bottom, it can start to look like, do you know when you do like a clown makeup and it's kind of like just a bit too wide? It starts to look a bit like that sometimes. Yes, I'm finding that overdraw that top lip just a bit wider. I'm kind of happy with that. I always have this problem with my top lip actually, where it looks like, for some reason it just looks like shorter than, if you're looking at it, it looks okay, but for different angles it can look really flat. So I'm just going to bring it up a bit. Like the height, I'm just going to bring the height up. And the liner on the bottom, I'm just going to bring it slightly wider. I know it was quite steep before and round, now it's less steep. I kind of just want to do a mix of the two. And now I just take my time fixing the makeup, very minor changes. So I've decided to bring this part of the eyeshadow down a bit, so I'm just going to take away some of the makeup from inside there. And then we'll get our new shape. It's definitely made a difference. So I've basically done the eyeliner a bit too high underneath the eye, and what I want to do is just take some of that away and draw it lower. And I think that's what's throwing this off. I've sat for about 3 hours sometimes trying to fix a makeup before I've shot. So if you're sitting for a while doing this, like, don't worry too much about it. Like, it's really difficult to get stuff spot on. I'm also adding a little extra weight just here, as that seems to be the bit where her eye is kind of like at its lowest point. And it almost highlights like the incline as well. So if you bring this down slightly, it makes the incline look greater, and your eye will look more like it's going up like this. It really is about a balance when you're doing this. Okay, so luckily, obviously, she has these really dark eyes. If you're doing a more natural makeup, you really want to use maybe browns or something not so like extreme. But with Harley Quinn, she's so extreme anyway, so we'd really get away with doing it with a really heavy black eyeliner. But a lot of the time you wouldn't get away with that, so just a heads up. Another change I'm going to do is actually use the highlight and put it into the crease of my eye. I feel like that's not light enough, what I've got on it there. So I'm just going to take a fresh brush, and I've got the highlighter on my hand, mix it with the foundation. I'm just going to put that into the little crease here, because I feel like it will be more extreme and then help the look a lot. Because we really want to create that hooded eye. It won't be like, it won't look exactly like a hooded eye, but it'll give that kind of vibe that your eye shape and dimension's different. And obviously I just add the highlight there and the crease and nowhere else, just blend it out. Blend it up the way. I feel like that eyeshadow as well is not very good, so I'm going to change that colour and use a slightly darker brown. You don't want to add too much because you don't want to make your eye look curved again. So speaking of Margot Robbie's eyes, I did a bit of research with looking at eyeballs and the eye like shapes and things like that, because it really interested me. And apparently most eyeballs are the same size, or give or take a couple of millimeters. But the way that they differ is the skin around it. So some people have more skin around their eye and less skin around their eye. And also some eyeballs are projected more forward and some are projected more in. So this all affects the shape of your eye. Mine's are probably kind of average where they are. Margot's are stick out, so you can see clearly that her eyeballs are quite prominent. It creates a really nice round shape on the eyelids. I don't have that round shape, so to create a sort of cheat of a round shape, I am going to take a highlight. So I'm going to take this light colour in my eyeshadow palette and just dab it in the middle of my eye, just to make it look like the light's hitting it more. Okay, so in turn, she also has shadow underneath her eye. So all I'm really going to do is just get like a brown that doesn't look too out there, that's kind of neutral and might match my skin tone quite well. And I'm just going to put a little bit just under here, just to help the look of the eyes. And just make it look like she's got a natural shadow there. It doesn't have to be exact, it's just like an extra thing to do. And if it's not dark enough, just grab a darker colour. This also helps blend out the eyeliner and doesn't make it doesn't look as harsh. Also just adding some highlighter to my jaw line, just at the edge, because her jaw is wider and I want to push mine out. So you would add highlight if you're doing that. And if you want to push them in, you would use the contour. So there you are. At this stage I'm quite happy, however I am going to change my eyebrow shape slightly. I feel like this one's curving out and not curving in the way. So I need to try and make it look like it's curving in the way. So I'm just going to bring it up slightly here. Don't actually know what's happened with this one, but I feel like it's lost its shape a bit. I just want to bring it out slightly there. Should be a bit wider here. Maybe a bit extreme. So now we're just going to focus on getting these lips looking a bit more 3D. They're quite flat at the moment. The first thing I want to do is clean up what I've got. If you've done your lips and you want to clean them up, all you're doing is adding concealer around them. In this case, I actually just use my foundation because it does a good job. But you can use a concealer or you can use your foundation. So I've got the brush and I'm just going to add a little bit of foundation onto the brush. I'll just blend it out a little bit and then go around the shape you've got. If it hits the liner, it kind of mixes with it and you end up with like a pink line around your lips, so you really need to watch when you do this. It's a bit tricky. But if you get any on your brush, just make sure you clean the brush and then keep adding some on. So adding the concealer just makes it a lot more like cleaner, the line, for like cleaning it up. It's just a bit more defined. But it's not so bad actually. Whoops. Oopsie. So because her lip sticks out at the bottom and it's rounder, she's got a shadow right here. So I'm just using the exact same, the same sort of blusher I've been using the whole time. The next one, and just adding a bit of shadow there and just blend it up the way. You don't want to blend it all the way up because it'll look fake. This is naturally where most of the shadow would be, like under the lip. You can also add a highlight above the lip. So I would just do it in the same way that I've been doing my other highlights, and I would just add whitener into my foundation. Her top lip obviously sticks out, so there would be a slight highlight on the top of it. I mucked that up a little bit, so if you make any mistakes you can just go over it with your pencil again. So So obviously her mouth's a lot wider than mine, so another trick you can do is take something like a brown pencil or an eyeshadow. I just use the same one that I use for my eyebrows, which is the MUA Brow Define. And then I just kind of add a little line just here. You need to be really careful with it, or you can end up with like a Joker mouth, but like for the Joker it's probably ideal. Yeah, so I would just do that and then sort of blend it out. And it creates just a small shadow just there. And it makes it look like the mouth's just slightly wider. I'm just going to tidy up some of the eyeliner, eyeshadow, etc. and just make sure it looks a bit more flawless. Sometimes I lose some of the eyeliner because I blend it so much, so I need to go back and just make sure that the eyeliner doesn't look like grey. Make sure there's some sort of liner there. Pretty happy with that. Ta-da! We have a makeup. So as I say, it's different for everyone. Hopefully you've picked up different tips from watching this. Your face might be totally different from my face, but I'm trying to like explain different ways to do it as I go along. It's always going to be tailored to your face, so take the techniques that I've done and try and use them for your best interest. Something I might have done, you would do the opposite. But just know your face and know the other face, and then you just kind of have to find ways to mold your own looks into the new person. So there you go. So at this point we're happy, and we would get the wig on and get ready for either a photo shoot, convention, whatever, but I will just put on my wig and show you what it looks like with the makeup, okay? So the last thing we want to do is draw the little heart that's on our right cheek, so I'm just going to map it on. Once you've got your tattoo, you're done. I'm really happy with this makeup. I think it's the closest I've ever got to looking like her. So yeah, just do it towards your own features, and hopefully you've picked up lots of tips. Thank you for watching.